Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with the Limp, and I'm here with a quick preview for you all. This is another digital game that is being released by Slithering Games. It's going to be coming to Steam here very soon and is based off the Stargate IP. So Stargate SG-1, Stargate the movie. This one is going to be called Stargate Timekeepers. Now, before we start looking at the game footage, this game is similar to the others that are RTS stealth genre type, right? So games like Shadow Tactics, the Shogun one, or Desperados 3, the ones where you have a band of characters, different characters that have different abilities, and you have to go through these different missions trying to accomplish them using the array of varying abilities that your guys have. Obviously, this one is going to be using Stargate characters. So what we're going to do here as a quick preview, since they do have a gameplay footage video up, and I'll link it down in the comments or down in the description rather, that way you can go check it out for yourself, watch through the whole thing without having to have my commentary over the top of it. But this way you can see a little bit of the game, what all's going on with it, and then I'll cover more of it when the game does release. All right, so here's the startup where it's the characters talking a little bit, and it can let you see the graphics of the game, which I do like the graphics. They are different, though, from what we've seen in, like, Desperados 3. The scale is different. You'll see what I mean here in just a second.
Turn, the path divides. The way to the right leads to the river. There is a bridge we can raise to cross it. It is strong enough to bear the weight. After the bridge, we can continue on a path that leads towards the camp. Otherwise, we can turn left. We shall come to a great tree with a hidden passage in its trunk. We can open it to let the convoy through. It takes 2 people on top of the tree to open the way. We must first pass through a clearing, then climb up. At that point, the path divides again. We can go whichever way seems safest. Either of them will take us to our destination.
So, we have options. Let's scout the area and work out the best course of action. Wherever we go, our first priority is to secure the track. We can't let Mullick's warriors endanger the convoy.
That is true.
All right, let's go.
All right, so here's where the player takes over and starts controlling their characters. You can see that there are 2 main characters that you have in this little scenario set up the demo that they're playing through. And they're, after watching this previously, they're along the tropes that we've seen before. One's a little more stealth-oriented, has abilities to kind of distract the enemy, more like a ninja, right? Get them to look the other way, come in, creep behind them, knock them out, things like that. And then one is a little more combat-focused and has different types of weapons where she can twirl around, take out multiple enemies in one hit, and use firearms to shoot them from a range. But again, you got to be careful because you don't want to alert the guards. Now, I was just talking about the graphics, and as you can see, this scale is different. It's more pulled back than the others that we've seen in this type of genre. Usually those are a little closer in. The characters are a little bit bigger, and I kind of like this. It gives you that drawn back view, kind of like you would have in something like Command and Conquer or Warcraft 3, right? Where your characters were smaller and you had to control them across the map. At first, I gotta say, I thought I might not like that aspect of it. But I think in a game like this, when it's strategic, it's tactical, and you gotta make these decisions, being able to have that wider field of view can give you a little, more options, give you a little bit more information. Because think about it, how many of those games have you played and you constantly feel like you're having to spin the map in every direction because you're trying to keep track of, well, there's an enemy patrol coming here, enemy patrol coming there, what's going on. So this way, with having it drawn back in that different angle, different scale, it gives you a little bit better view, I think, of the battlefield. So like I said, at first I thought I might not like it because it's not as zoomed in, it's not as detailed, but this is actually giving you more information that you can use during your playthrough of the game. So I'm not going to play through the entire 15-minute video watching the whole thing, commentating on it, but we're going to do parts of it, so let's let it play out here.
Not that I know of, and I have lived here almost my whole life.
That's what I thought. Well, your camps are well hidden, far from the gate, and surrounded by woods.
Obviously, as you can see, arrayed across the bottom of the screen are the different hotkeys for the different abilities that your characters have, and they can take different stances. As you're going to see here in a little bit, as he starts to move these two characters forward, they have sight lines for the enemies, just like you've seen in the other types of games, right? The green cones that stand out. It is pretty obvious that the green cones are delineated by how far out they'll pick you up. So if your character's standing or running, they'll pick you up from the entire distance. However, if you're crouched or moving slowly, you won't be seen in that dashed area of their cone of vision. You'll see this as they start to move forward.
Woods. If they're not searching for you, they might not find you.
I hope you are right.
Obviously here the players going through and just showing different parts of the screen, different things that are going around. I do like how if you click on the objectives, it shows the objectives, right? So scroll through them, different areas. You see as the characters are moving forward, there's the cone of vision I was talking about for the enemy. However, since they're crouching and moving slow, they're not picked up in that, that later part of the cone of vision. And obviously there's bushes that they can use to hide, get stealth, creep up on the enemy, and then use a knockout attack, knockout special ability to come up behind the enemy and attack them. And then obviously here, this is the showcase of the different abilities. One is very good at stealth and is able to sneak out there and take out one, while the other has that ability to knock out two enemies at once. I do believe that that circle around them, not the red one, but the farther one, designates how far out the sound will travel. Now, before we continue, there's a key thing that I want to address here, and it comes into play with games of this type, right? This genre. And that's player choice, player agency. I understand for a tutorial mission like this, when it's mission 1, you're learning your abilities, that it's going to be pretty regimented. You're going to have a pretty direct path, pretty set in stone. You need to use this ability here, this character does this. Think of Shadow Tactics, right? If you've played that game before, the first mission, you start off with your ninja, you're going through, you're doing certain objectives, then you get your samurai, you're doing certain things with him, his different abilities, but it's very scripted. These first missions have to be scripted. That way you are put in positions where you have to use your abilities and you learn how to use those abilities effectively. That's fine. No problem with that. However, after the first mission, that's when things need to change, and it needs to give the player as much agency as possible about how to accomplish the mission. I want the mission to feel like a playground, that I could go in guns blazing to an extent, on the direct offensive for the most part, or maybe I creep around this way, or maybe I blow this part and distract them and then come in behind them. Whatever the case is, you have to have multiple, and not just like it's either path A or path B, but multiple different branching opportunities to make choices throughout these missions. It's the only way that games like this, I think, can really work effectively, because the player really does need to feel like they're solving the puzzle with their thoughts, their abilities, all the special characteristics that their characters will have. you need to give the player the ability to feel like they've accomplished something. Because if they feel like they only have one set path, they have to use this ability at this time, okay, it's time to grapple up, or I got to blow this wall now at this point, then there's no reason to go back and play through the missions again. And replay value is a key thing for games like this. Yeah, some people are going to play through it just once, but you do want the ability to play through it on a harder difficulty after you've learned the missions, after you've mastered the abilities, and see if you can go through and get those perfect achievements, get those max scores, because now you've mastered all the abilities and you can come up with a perfect plan to accomplish the mission. That's the key aspect to this game. Is the player given enough choice to feel like they've really made an accomplishment? Or is it a linear path that, it is what it is. Like I said, this first mission looks very linear, but again, it's a demo mission, a tutorial mission, and it's going to feel that way. And I expect that in all these games. They're going to start that way because they need to teach you your abilities. It's how the game plays out after that that really makes the difference. Now, something I've noticed as I've watched this is that I see that they're tying up the enemies. That's great. The non-lethal avenue, you can do lethal. You'll see that later on. And here's the distraction. Throwing the rock, throwing the bottle cap, throwing the whatever. You see she was running, so the enemy started to pick up on her character as she was going. She got out of the sight line. But it does not appear like there's any option to move the enemies that are knocked down. I don't know whether or not this player's just not doing that, or if it's not something you have to do. I would anticipate in a game like this that if you leave a bunch of knocked out enemies all over the place and another one patrols along and sees it, that they're going to come and untie them. They're going to free them, right? So do you have the chance to tuck away the enemy bodies or not? That's a question I would definitely want to know. Also, it does appear like that, also it does appear from what you see there that when you are stunning an enemy, you're knocking them out, that they're not knocked out permanently. Most games, when you stun an enemy, non-lethal attack, they're usually knocked out for the duration of the mission. Here, it appears like you've got a set time that they're going to be knocked out for, which requires you to do something, whatever it is, to incapacitate them permanently, whether it's tying them up, killing them, whatever choice that you make. All right, so I skipped ahead just a little bit, and I wanted to show another aspect, which is the environmental, right? Because in games like this, obviously, you're going to have environmental attacks, whether it's knocking down a crate or bringing down a chandelier, whatever it is. Here it appears to be some type of log that is going to be used to take out multiple enemies. So let's see how that plays out. And I like that. It's showing you, hey, this is what's going to happen if you do this action. That way, you know, if an enemy's coming through, you got an idea of when you need to time it. Some people might not like that. Think it might be giving them...
all of them in this area. Let's head on.
Some people might not like that. You'll think it gives them too much information. Me personally, I like it. I want to know exactly what I'm doing before I start pushing the red buttons, you know? All right, so I skip forward again just a little bit. And like I said, the link's down in the description. Go check it out for yourself. But here is where they are, again, teaching you another aspect of the game. And this is the ability to have a coordination between your characters. Again, something that's key. You've got to put together your plan. So you've got to have the ability to have all of your characters placed in key positions and then be able to execute it all at the same time. Obviously, the game gives you that ability. Let's see how this plays out. You see here, there's 3 guards, right? And they've got to take out all 3 guards simultaneously, otherwise you'll get caught. So you plan out your attack, what you're going to do. This one's using the staff, gonna swing around, take out those 2. This one's going to use a stealth attack to hit this one from behind so they can take out all 3 enemies simultaneously when they hit execute from your tactical mode. Boom, cool. Just took them out. I love that. That's one of the coolest aspects. That's the neatest thing in games like this, is when you get to plot out something like that and have all your characters in just the right spot and you plan it just perfectly. You hit that execute, boom, everything falls into place and you accomplish whatever your goal is. All right, up here, we're gonna have another environmental attack and then a ranged attack. So you get to see a little bit how gunfire works, which is pretty much just another ability, but it is an ability you get to use at range.
And you need to evacuate. We'll help you. You'll be safe.
Thank you.
And boom, the logs take them down. That's some type of lure that's being used that'll draw the enemies in and have them come into whatever position you want them to be, so you can obviously take them out. Here is where you're going to see the gun attack, so that both of these enemy characters will be shot as they start to run up.
I can see the benefits of this towering weapon.
It gets the job done.
Now here you're going to see where you have the ability to spread out, right? Some of your characters aren't going to be able to use the same types of movement abilities. And here, the red character can only go straight across the bridge. You see as she starts to try to go there, she can't do that. The blue character, however, can climb up there, and you can see she can click the icon and go climbing straight up the hill. All right, so that should give you a basic idea of what we're looking at for Stargate, which I don't know exactly when it's releasing, but it is going to be releasing soon from Southern Games. It's going to be available on Steam. And while I don't know the price currently for a game like this, with the IP that's behind it, I would anticipate around $39. I think that would be an appropriate price for it. And then obviously they'll probably release DLC for it later on. Now, again, I'm not saying that's what's going to cost. I would anticipate, $39.99 is the price they would release it. US, EU, and the rest of you guys, you should be in the ballpark. However, if you are into games like this, like Desperados, like the Shadow Tactics, the Partisans, right? If you've played any of these games before, obviously the granddaddy of them all, Commandos. If that's a game that's up your alley, you definitely want to take a look at Stargate. And from what I've seen so far, it does appear like that this game isn't just resting on its laurels, resting on its IP. So many times we see games that are released based on whatever IP it is, whether Marvel, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever it is, Stargate. And a lot of times they won't put as much effort into the game because they feel like the IP is going to sell it, right? We saw that with that crappy Marvel game that released a year or so back, whatever. However, this game does not appear like they're doing that. It seems like they're in a really good place here. They're trying to implement a gameplay that I think everyone's going to really like if you're into these strategic style games. And right now, the only thing I can't comment on is whether or not the player is given that agency, because I haven't played far enough into the game to be able to tell you whether or not you have those choices, right? If you do have those choices, and I don't think that they wouldn't have that in there. It's the difference between a good game and a bad game in this genre. then this one is definitely going to be one that I'm going to spend a lot of hours in. I think you guys probably enjoy it as well. Anyway, y'all stay tuned. I will try to put up some footage of this game as soon as I can. Y'all take care. I will catch you in the next one.